Yo, we are back in After Effects, and in today's video I'm gonna break down 3 effects done in brand new music video called Shoutout, directed and edited by NOAHSOCOLD. This video just came out like 18 hours ago. The video is really crazy, like NOAHSOCOLD really killed it on the video. So enough of talking, this will be my first effect, which is the skeleton head effect that I like to call. It's absolutely fire. So I'm gonna show you how to do this. As you can see, I have this clip with like a slow motion at the end. You don't really need the slow motion, but it really makes our tracking process a lot easier. So the first thing you gotta do is download a skull PNG. As you can see right here, I downloaded this from the internet. It looks really cool and it's really like high quality as well, which I like. I'll leave this in the description if you want to download this exact one. But anyways, you just gotta like drag and drop it into your comp first. Go down the size for now, and you can see this like a text right here off the side. I don't want that, so I'm gonna take my max tool and simply like max it out. Yeah, that's perfect now. So for the skull, I'm gonna go over where the slow-mo happens on my footage. If I like hide this, you can see the slow-mo happens around here. So I'm gonna just trim it till here and selecting my skull picture. I'm gonna lower down the size of it, and I also think I'm gonna put the anchor point of the skull into like the bottom, in the bottom center, if that makes sense, and rotate that according to your face, of course. Like you just really gotta like look at your artist movement of his head and just match it to there. But for now, I'm gonna lower down the size of it. It's around there. You can even like stretch it if you want, like scale ones. You can stretch it on the Y or the Z according to your artist face, maybe something like that. And you can also hit T on the keyboard to bring up the opacity and lower down the opacity, just so you can match it like perfectly. So I'm gonna match the first frame, something like this. So my first frame looks cool right there. So after you're done matching your first frame, you just gotta open up your transform values and set the keyframe on the position. You can also set this keyframe on the scale if you like, but I'm not gonna do that right now. And also hit the stopwatch in the rotation, and now go over to the last frame and you just gotta like place it where your artist face moves and rotate it according to that, maybe something like that. And you can also play with the keyframe duration, make it a bit slower if you want. Now it looks like the skull is tracked to his face. It's not that great, but we'll add some different effects so it will cover it up, so you don't really have to worry about the animation right now. So now you can create a new adjustment layer and start adding different effects onto here, like whatever effect you like. It's better if you use like those grungy effects, something like sapphire grains, and also like sapphire TV damage and flickers to make it really hit. But for now, I'm gonna use my grunge effects. If you don't already know, I have a preset pack called grunge effect that allows you to add grungy and distortion effect easily, like NOAHSOCOLD. It's 2 packs, I bundle it in one, so you are really getting like 60 plus assets in it. Or if you don't have like my preset pack, feel free to use like those effects that I told you and create your own preset as well. But for now, I'm gonna open up my effects and preset, open my animation preset, go over to user preset, ultimate grunge bundle, and I'm gonna open up both grunge and default. And for now, I'm gonna use one called RGB cycle in here, and as soon as you add it, you can see this crazy look. It looks really trippy. I really like this. But to top it off, I like to add some adjustment in here. So firstly, it's just too dark for my scene, so I'm gonna add like a lumetri color and put it before all of my effects and go to basic correction. And you can just play with like the highlights, maybe like bring up the highlights and lower down the contrast, bring up the shadows, something like that. Also, if you like, you can turn off one of the curves so the distortion is gone, and you can like bring up the brightness, bring up the whites, you can lower down the blacks a bit. Yeah, that looks cool for my scene right now. So after that little adjustment, you can already see like, the effect. It looks really cool, but we're gonna add more effects to make it really hit. So firstly, you can add like an exposure and put it before all of your clip, like below the lumetri color, and hit the stopwatch in there and put the keyframe a bit forward. And right where it transition to skull, you can just bring up the brightness to like crazy and go few frames forward and set it to 0. So we have this flash with it. Then after that, like NOAHSOCOLD did it, we're gonna add a 6. So for that, I'm gonna use Sapphire 6, and as always, put it before all of your effects. And I like to bring up the frequency of this and hit the stopwatch in the amplitude. So for the 6, it's like the same stuff. So like when the skull pops in, you can make it to 1, set it to 0 before, go a bit further like here and lower it down to 0, and you can just easy use those keyframes. Select your keyframes, pop into graph, and I like to make a simple graph like this for the sake. Maybe the graph is too tight. Then you can turn on the motion blur, and for the motion blur, I like to lower down the length of it. Maybe you can put the frequency to like 11 as well. Let's see how it looks. Yeah, that's perfect now. I'll remove one of these flashes right here, and like how NOAHSOCOLD did it, I'm gonna add a posterized time and set the frame rate to 12. So now after adding the posterized time, you can see it's get a bit laggy. That's exactly what we want. It looks so cool. Now we're gonna add like a simple hotspot in here, Sapphire hotspot, and bring up the amount at the beginning and keyframe it to 0 as well. And lastly, a flicker to top it all off. You can also put it before all of your effects. Keyframe the amplitude as well so it goes up as the clip goes on. Maybe putting it before all of your effect would look good because it's looking like too crazy right now. So after all, my first effect looks something like this, and I really love how it turned out. Grunge FX is literally goated. I'll link it in the description if you want to check it out. But anyways, let's move into our second effect, which would be this 3D skull with all of those lightning going on the back. If you saw the actual video, you see a lot of these like thunderstorm and skeletons throughout the video, and it looks super fire. So this is one of the demo that I made. So to do this, you can see I have this blank comp. So firstly, I'll create a solid and add an element into here. Element, if you don't already know, Element is a plugin which allows you to add different kind of 3D models into your scene. It's one of my favorite plugins for real. So to import our skeleton, we're gonna go to scene setup. So head over to scene setup, and in here you can go head over to import, and in the description you will find skull obj. It's on my Discord server actually, on the 3D channel, so you can check it out by joining my Discord server. But anyways, let's just open it up. Okay, and we're gonna hit normalize size to normal this, and you can see this is a simple skeleton model. So if you want, you can head over to preset and play with all the materials. Maybe I'm gonna go over to pro shaders and go with concrete and mix with the texture of it a bit if you like, but I think I'm gonna leave it at the default color, which is white. I'm gonna head over to environment and add a simple environment into here. You don't really have to, but I'm just doing it to match the lighting of it. But anyways, now we are done with elements, so I'm gonna hit OK to quit out of here, and in my scene you can see the skeleton right here. So now in here I'm gonna right click in a blank space, go over to new and create a new camera. Make sure it's 15mm, or you can play with the millimeters if you like. But anyways, hit OK. Then you can take these 3 tools and rotate it or zoom it whatever you like. So I'm gonna like zoom it into his face for now, so something like that. Scale it in more, and you can get a good angle with this as well. And after that, we're gonna animate the camera. So head over to the transform and hit the stopwatch in the position and the point of interest, and go over to the end again and make a little animation like a simple rotation. Maybe that's too much, something like that. Yeah, that looks cool and simple. You don't really have to mess with the animations because it's like a really still effect. But anyways, selecting my solid layer now, I'm gonna head over to render settings, go over to ambient occlusion and just turn that on, and you can just bring up the intensity of it as you like. I need to add this really good shadows, which I really love. It makes the skeleton and any type of stuff. But now you can just close up the render settings Now we are done with all of those 3D stuff. But to add that thunderstorm, I found this thunderstorm footage on YouTube. This is like a simple footage that I found on YouTube. You can easily find it if you just search like lighting or thunderstorm. But anyways, I'm gonna drag it onto my comp and put it before my element layer and just line it where the thunderstorm comes. And one thing I like to do is make a new solid like a really dark blue color on it and put it below all of your layers and set the blending mode to screen of it. Then you can add like a curves on your thunderstorm and make it a bit darker. Also like lower down the saturation if you want. Also you can duplicate your thunderstorm layer once again and just play with the timing of it and also you can right click on it, go to transform and flip horizontally. Like it says, it will flip it horizontally to give it a different look. That looks cool right there, but you can see our skeleton is not reacting to like the thunderstorm. So to fix that, I like to add a simple exposure on here and hit the stopwatch in there, and manually whenever like the thunderstorm hits, I'm gonna like bring up the exposure of my skeleton layer so it looks a bit realistic. So right here I'm gonna bring it up and lower it down where you don't want it. So now it looks a bit realistic. And to top it all off, I'm gonna add an adjustment layer and add different effects to make it like really grungy as we did with our last effect. So firstly I'm gonna add a CC vignette onto here, CC vignette, and bring up the vignette and put the anchor point on the head, on the skull, so something like that. Then a sapphire grain, lower down the color amplitude of it, bring up the black and white amplitude, and you can just lower down the frequency as you like. If you like, you can also put it before your vignette, and then you can add like a sapphire JPEG damage into here and put it before your grain. Now you can see it really like damages your footage, which looks really cool. You can even add like a sapphire pixel sort in here, and you can just play with the threshold of it. It's add those crazy like pixel sorting effect and a sapphire flicker as well. Bring up the amplitude of the sapphire flicker. So finally now I'm gonna select my element 3D layer and add like an invert on it. Is invert, yes, invert, and it should invert all of the colors on the skull, which looks really cool. You can even add like a curves after that, and the last thing will be optical glow on it. Optical glow, bring up the size something like that and lower down the amount to like something like, and you can set the alpha channel to extended amount. So finally my second effect looks something like this. And not only for music video, you can also use this effect for visualizers. I really saw a lot of people recently using like Skull 3D for their visualizers with some VHS effect on top with the lyrics. It would go hard as a visualizer as well. But anyways, now let's move on to our third effect, which would actually be this like window XP with like our video going on one of the tabs. I saw a lot of people use this new effect in their videos, and also NOAHSOCOLD did it on the So What video. So let's just break it down. So firstly I started by finding this Windows XP panel from the internet. So I just searched up like window XP interface or something like that and got this image right here. I'll also link it in the description if you want to use the exact one, but I'm gonna drag it onto our comp now and scale it up something like that so it fits our screen. Then now in here I want my video playing in this panel. So for the actual footage which I'm gonna play, I'm gonna use a footage from the music video. Of course I grabbed this, I already selected out this part, so I'm gonna just drag it into here and now lower down the size of it and try to fit it on there, maybe scaling it up, and you can just like lower down the opacity of it. Then take your mask tool and just max it out according to your interface. Then just bring up your opacity. Now you can see our video is playing on the panel, but it doesn't really look that realistic in my opinion. So to match it more, I'm gonna add a sapphire JPEG damage onto here as well on my footage layer, so it's a bit distorted, and also like a simple exposure to bring up the exposure according to our interface. And then I'm gonna right click, make a new null object and parent both of my layer into it. Now in here I'm just gonna make a simple position So something like that. If you really want, you can go over to the graph and make it a bit smoother, but don't do it too much because it's like a retro effect and we don't want to like overdo anything. Maybe something like that. But now we are almost done with this effect, but I like to create the adjustment layer and add a plugin called Signal to top it off, like a Signal. So Signal in here, if you don't know, this is a plugin which allows you to add those crazy VHS effects into anything really easily. So after adding that, you can see it looks really realistic. But in here, I'm gonna go to Signal amplification and hit the stopwatch in there and put the first keyframe somewhere around there and bring up the amplification of it, which makes it looks really distorted. So it's like a bit distorted at the first, so as it goes it turns normal with the keyframe. You can even play with like the chroma noise, bring it up a little bit. And a really cool feature that I like on the Signal is this distortion button, if I pronounced it right. So I'm gonna hit the stopwatch in there, and for the first frame I'm gonna check it and go to the second frame and just turn it off, and you can just do this few times in your composition. And finally I'm gonna add like a prosterize time and set it to 18, so it's a bit laggy as well. And with that, our third and final effect is also done. So yeah, that's it for today's video guys. If you like this video, please consider hitting the like button and also subscribe to my channel for more value content like this. You can also follow me on Instagram if you like. Join my Discord server, I'm really active in there. So yeah, see you in next video. Peace.